Elizabeth, an interesting overlap in my life where in my Ghosts of Boyfriends Past love and relationships world and my interests of true crime. I hate admitting that I'm a true crime fan. I hate it. Are you a white woman between
your 30s and 50s?
I hate it. However, there is an overlap and an interesting one and a frankly bizarre one wherein people will be attracted to and then maybe want to date and then maybe want to even marry murderers and serial killers.
Like they know that they're murderers and serial killers.
They're
you're talking
convinced.
like prison pen pally, like let's fall in love and write to Ted Bundy.
To someone who's taken 16 lives.
You.
Why? I don't know why. Like why and
Is
where
this
and
like
how.
taking the bad boy or bad girl? Like I guess as women can be serial killers too. It's statistically less likely, but I don't understand it. I mean, this is someone. I'm speaking from a place of being attracted to walking red flags, and even I think that's too far of a bad guy.
Most sort of kinks or situations, I could sort of put my feet in and myself in their shoes and sort of understand it, right, on a level.
I think it's got to be some kind of a savior complex, right? They've got to be like, well, I can fix them. Yeah. Like maybe they just weren't loved enough by their, mummy, daddy, girlfriends, and I don't know. But like I find even scarier the people who are married to people who are serial killers and they don't know their entire life.
Yes, like, and then 40 years goes down the line and then suddenly there's a knock on the door. Oh, by the way, your husband's wanted for 30 counts of murder.
Yeah, since the 70s kind of thing. Like, and they've lived an entire life, had kids, had grandkids, and all of a sudden, grandpa's a serial killer.
Can you imagine after 20 years of marriage?
I would never reconcile that. There is no circumstances under which I, as a family member, spouse, or child, could ever reconcile that. There's a couple of good podcasts about that. I think it's been about 5 or 6 years, but I'm pretty sure there was one. I think it was the Happy Face Killer podcast where it was I reviewed it on my old podcast, Castology, where it's the family members of someone who, the child of a serial killer reconciling their life. That whole thing. Gee whiz.
It's a realm that I really struggle to understand. If anyone has better insights as to why people fall for serial killers, how do they justify it, please let us know at ghostofboyfriendspast@gmail.com.
I know that some of you out there are true crime fanatics. I am very aware of this. We have had conversations about the crossovers. So tell me what your theories are as to why people, get that whole... I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. Like, why do they romanticize the worst people in existence?
Indeed.
No, thank you.
Hello one, hello all. I'm Tom Harris, and across from me is Elizabeth Best. We're a bit rattled today. We're a bit frazzled, but boy, howdy, are we going to push through and give you a show worth talking about.
'Tis the season. Like, honestly, I'm so exhausted already, and it's only just the start of December.
Yes, yep.
I put up my Christmas tree in a rush. Normally, I would have it up halfway through November because I'm that person. Because it's like... There's been studies that say that the earlier you put your tree up, the happier you are as a person. There are studies. It's official. Our producer Zane's like, I feel like it's the other way around. And he is wrong. Bah humbug, Scrooge, get out. But yeah, this year has been so, like, I was putting up the tree going, fucking Christmas tree, fucking Christmas, fucking carols. And normally I'm the biggest Christmas fan. So I'm really tired, you guys.
So, yes, we are sleep deprived and worn out today, dear listeners. So apologies for that. But we brought a returning guest who is fun and full of life and bold and ready to get it.
And also, actually, she's a bit dusty from yesterday.
I was going to say, don't oversell it.
She started drinking at my house because every year I do this thing, which I think everybody should do, where I have a terrible Christmas movie day. And Kim Brown, our guest.
Hello,
Kim.
Kim came to my house yesterday to start the day. So basically what we do is we watch the shittiest, and if it's a good Christmas movie, it's not on our list.
Yeah, that's
right?
Throw it out.
It's got to be Hallmark movies. It's got to be high-powered, insert high-powered job here, loses job, goes back to insert small town here, falls in love with local, insert humble job here, and learns the true meaning of Christmas. Yes. Like that's essentially literally
formula.
the formula. We did
Yeah.
watch a great one yesterday called A Christmas Movie Christmas with two people who got sucked into the Christmas movies that one of them hated and one of them loved so much. And they tried to take the piss out of themselves, but when they are what they are taking the piss out
Yes.
of.
Right,
The tropes
yeah.
did not sit right. It was
No,
it was
no.
deliciously
I'm
terrible.
like, do you think you're better than what you're making fun of? Because you're not.
So a day of drinking and bagging.
So yes, I always
bagging
said to
Christmas
Liz, I
movies.
can't watch these movies without a few beverages. So I started hard at Liz's house, and then I went to my work Christmas party,
Yeah.
which kicked on well into the evening.
And now you're
so-
here to gripe
and now I'm
about
here.
romance and love and dating and.
And I think,
et
quite
cetera
frankly,
gone
I
by.
should have a tired, worn-out voice for these stories.
Great.
A
so
bit
there
of
we are.
vocal fry never hurt anybody.
We're all tired. We're all a bit dusty.
But we're here for
all
you,
fecked off,
right?
yeah.
We're doing this for you because we have a job to do and we will see that job through even if
This
it
is-
kills us.
Definitely my public service for the week.
Yes.
Just gonna.
Yes,
yeah.
done. Brilliant.
And we salute you for that. Now,
So-
Kim's here to bring to tell us tales of love and romance gone by. We do have rules. We will get to them. We might not. We
She
might be
reckons
cool.
that she's like, do you want me to say the rules this time? And I was like, you know what? Go ahead.
Go ahead. I have actually been trying to catch up on a lot of the past episodes that I might have missed. So I've actually been binging the podcast a bit. So, yes. Well, firstly, aliases, and I even have a handy dandy cheat
Good.
sheet
She
in
does,
front
can-
of me.
Good.
confirm.
So that I can make sure I don't mess up names because I don't want to do a Liz.
How dare you?
How very dare you? Secondly, no threats on mic. So
On
that's what
mic,
the other
yes.
room is
Yes.
for. We go outside and we threaten everybody. No, but no threats on mic. And nobody at home. Some of you I know who listen will know who these people are and will know these stories.
Yes.
Do not ever post anything about anyone. that
Don't
you
be a
won't-
dick.
Don't be a
The
dick.
whole point of this podcast is so that we can learn from our stupid mistakes. And if you're going around being like, if so-and-so said something about you in a podcast, that's just not beneficial to anybody.
Torches and
Smack
pitchforks
yourself on the
away
hand.
for now,
Yeah.
please, everybody. So that's it. That's
Get on the fun wagon.
That's our little.
Oof,
That's the
I like
show.
that.
That's
Get on
our,
the fun wagon. Is that a euphemism?
Don't be a dick. Just get on the fun wagon. I don't know.
all aboard the fun.
I will
wagon.
gift that to you guys if
Yeah.
you like. Right.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's get on the fun wagon.
Let's get on the fun wagon.
What have you got in store for us today,
Well,
Kim?
I'm kind of basically picking up from where I left off the last time I was here. So for what do we call it? Readers? For our fun readers who have been following. Last time I was here, I was talking about getting back onto the dating apps in the plus years, so over 40, sort of getting out there, navigating that world and the fun times that I said. That's not the use of the word fun. The times that we've had.
By fun, like just air quote it, and we're
Okay, I
fine
was
with
gonna
that. With
say,
the
yes,
fun
which really works
times.
for podcasts.
Yeah,
but also dating in a position where your ducks are more in a row
That's right,
and you're
yeah,
more
so
put together as an adult human being
it's
and you know what you like and what you don't want.
Definitely me going, this is what I want, this is what I'm after. I said to someone the other day, I'm aggressively husband hunting.
right.
And so that's the thing is this is for me is currently it's got a goal, it's purposeful.
You're recruiting. You're a headhunter. You're recruiting.
I am not taking anybody's BS, and I'm getting out there, and I'm not just doing it on the side. Like I'm like, no, I want this. This is the next thing that I want to.
Should we make
to
the
do.
case for dating resumes then? Like stuff the bios, make them submit a 2-page resume plus selection criteria.
Yep,
And if you-
2004 to 2010, I was
Yeah,
in a
don't
6-year
cut
Can you
it out.
relationship.
explain this
Yep.
gap in your relationship resume?
I did a
Yes.
year of therapy between, and you're like, oh, yeah,
yes,
therapy.
okay.
so,
Reference
yeah.
That's yep. I'm into it.
Yeah, I love it. So yes, it's that's sort of where I've been going. So when I spoke to you guys last, I'd kind of taken a little break, and then after that, I was like, I'm doing it. It's me aggressive. I'm gonna
Back
get
on
out
that fun
there.
wagon. I'm sorry. you know this is going to be called the fun
Kim and the
wagon
fun
now.
wagon.
Guarantee.
So this has probably now been about 6 months of like continuous sort of regular online matching, chatting, dating, etc. But there was 2, maybe 3 stories. I'm not 100% sure if we'll get to the third one. But about sort of casual relationships and what that looks like, and there are plenty of lessons learned. So because
Great.
I learned it from the first to the second and even to the third. So it's all happening. So for some reason I seem to have. I don't know how and I don't know why, but if I manage to go on a date with someone, I don't often get second date. Or if I get a second date, I don't know. It just seems to like I go on a date with someone, and if I like them, I sort of be like, hey, that was fun, and then it's a bit of ghosting or a bit of just unmatch and disappear and whatever. I'm okay, right, cool, fine. There's been a couple that I've rocked up on the date and gone, oh no, you know, like even though on paper everything's perfectly fine and there's nothing wrong with this human, there's just no chemistry, no click, no.
Yeah, I call those
Nothing.
people beige.
Yeah, and it's
a bit beige.
I mean, even as a person,
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just beige.
But it's just not for me. I think is more of it. It's just like it's not you know starting my engine. It's just like oh yeah.
But I kind of commend that approach because I think a lot of people assume going on one date means that I've committed to one date. We must now have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dates.
I'm sorry. Who are these people? I don't think I've ever met them, Tom.
No, but I think you want. I think we can. There's a trend of desperately wanting for it to work, and going and dating longer than we should. Get to one date and it's not what you pictured, and
I think honestly, and this is something I'll discuss on a future ep, because I went to a thing with Bumble, invited me to a thing, and we talked about dating trends. And post pandemic, people don't have the time to put up with shit anymore. They're like, there are more important, it's like everyone's reevaluated, like there's more important things than working yourself to death. There's more important things. And one of the things that we talked about was there's more important things than fucking around to find out. Like there's just no...
That is 100% where I'm sitting at the moment is going, like I said, I'm over 40.
My time is valuable.
My time is bloody valuable and I actually really enjoy my own time. And so for me to be, like I said, getting out there and making this choice to sort of find something and find someone is yeah, I'm not wasting my time. And even to the point where I, even on the app, you know, chatting might have, you know, a half hour of messages back and forth and then just radio silence for like 3 or 4 days. And I'll send a couple of messages. Oh, hey, how's your week going? Hey, you free this weekend? And if I get to like the third message and it's been a week and I've not heard anything, boom, unmatched, gone. Even if they were great. I'm like, well, you could have had a death in the family. You could, like, there could have been things that have happened, sure. But also for me, that's a big sign about communication. And so even just straight away is going, well, if you can't just send me a quick message and just say, hey, look, it was really good chatting with you. Life's gone to shit today. Oh, you know, or whatever. And so for me, I'm just like, nah, I can't. I'm just, moving on. Part of me sits there and goes, oh, but I could have just missed the one. I'm like, no, if it's meant to be, they'll come back. It'll come around or something else will come along. Like I don't care anymore. I want to move on. She's busy. But I think the biggest thing for me, regardless of all of that, has actually been, and this is going to get a bit sexy times. We're going to talk about some of that. Because up until this year, and this harks back to my first episode with the dodgy boyfriend, I haven't had sex for 12 years. It had been a very long time.
That's a long time.
So not even like no dates, no hookups, no nothing. Like I just all of it and it was a little bit of it all of a sudden. I was like, oh, it's been a decade.
Yeah.
Right.
Time flies when you're, busy. But yeah, so I was getting to the point now that I was getting quite anxious about being physical with someone because I was like, oh God,
sure.
I know
like
I can ride the bike,
just
but I
too
just
much.
haven't.
So much build up.
Yes.
Like so much build up, so much expectation, so much like, even when you know you can ride the bike, there's still a bit of a wobbly go when you first get on and start pedaling.
So I started getting to the point where I was almost getting a bit freaked out about it. For some reason as well, on the apps, I seem to be matching with significantly younger men, like in their early 30s, and they're all like, oh, I want to be with a mature woman, and she's got so much experience. And I was like,
hi, let me stop you there.
Might be mature, can't tell. Yeah, and so there was a few of them that were like, oh, well, whatever, bye. And I was like, great, good, whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah. So there was that sort of stuff as well. And there was a few people obviously that are just looking for hookups. And I was at this point where I'm like, you know what, I don't want to say no to something in case it does turn into something else, but also why can't I have some fun while I'm finding...
You've got to sow those wild oats at some point in your life. And if that comes in your 20s or if that comes in your 40s,
Yeah.
who fucking cares?
Yep.
So,
So,
on.
it's definitely happening now. My mother will not be listening to this podcast.
I can smile.
So basically I was getting a bit hung up about all of that, and I was getting really stressed and nervous about meeting people, especially when the conversations had been purely sort of sexual. Anyway, so then I sort of went back on the apps after about a 4 or 5 month break, and I actually decided to join a second app, which was the worst decision I've ever made because it was a useless app and it's terrible and the money was bad. Like, it was just stupid. I won't talk about them because they're stupid. But
They don't deserve their time.
But I was swiping through going, ooh, this is awful. And then this guy popped up who I had actually matched with and gone on some dates with 6 months ago on a different app.
A rematch.
So again, this was the gentleman who we went on 2 dates. Everything was amazing. And he said, do you want kids? And I said, no. And we said, well, let's part ways.
Oh,
yes. I
yes.
recall.
So
You got a do-over.
yeah. So I kind of just went, oh, that guy. And my brain went, there was attraction there and there was chemistry. And I was like, I wonder if he's on this app, if he's still looking, because he was also trying to find someone that he could start a family with. But I thought, well, maybe I could just see if he wants to have some fun in the meantime.
Shit, yeah, you
and
could.
At least then we've already met, we already like each other, etc. So I ended up messaging him. Oh, it turns out both of us still had each other's phone numbers in our phone. Neither of us had deleted the other person. So started messaging. I said, look, I'm just going to put this out there to see if you're interested. What do you reckon we could have? Do you want to have a go at, like, basically, and I used the term casual relationship. I said, look, and we'd sort of talked about sex and stuff, and I was like, I just want to sort of re-practice that. But I said, we can
It's
go
a dress rehearsal.
Yeah,
Or an undress rehearsal.
an undress on the Fun Wagon.
Very good.
And like I said, but like go for dinner and then just sort of have some fun. And he was like, oh, I've never really done that before, but that could be good. And yeah, he was sort of in a similar position where everything was getting frustrating and he wasn't sort of getting anywhere and he was getting a bit tired of dating, and I think I sort of made that nice and easy. So I'm going to call him Andy.
Okay, Andy.
So Andy and we're both very busy, and so we kind of only saw each other like maybe once a week, sometimes twice a week, if we had sort of the time. We sort of just started seeing each other. And I said, well, I feel like there should be some rules. And I said to him, what do you think? Like, I've not done this before. He sort of hadn't done this before either. And I was like, what do we do here? And I think for me, one of the big things is that I think we just need to keep open about who we're seeing. So, like, oh, I've got a date tomorrow. I can't see you. But, because we were both still actively, looking and so forth. And I said, and just at any time we just keep communication open. If either of us is just it's not working for us, that's fine as well. And that was sort of basically it. I was like, let's just keep talking. And he was like, yeah, cool, great, no worries. So that was fine. So we started, we had a couple of dates. We actually ended up having like a first, second, third date, like a new first date where we actually didn't have sex, but we just had dinner and sort of reconnected and whatever. And that was really nice. And we sort of ended with a kiss, and because we hadn't kissed before, and so that was nice. And then I sort of went home, and then I saw him on the weekend, and unfortunately, it was a really inconvenient time of the month for me at that point. But it actually worked out really well because I said, well, do you want to just fool around? Like, let's just get to second base or something. And we actually found a little app that's like a truth or dare. So we actually played some games while we were drinking. And some of it was truth questions. So it was like, how do you feel about this? And then it was also like, now do this to your partner and blah, blah, blah. So we had a really fun night. And for me, it actually really helped calm my nerves.
That sounds like a really,
it's
like I was going to
lovely.
say, that would have, I could choose better words, but that would have really loosened you up.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was just about getting used to being even slightly naked, and then going, okay, let's just baby steps into
Yeah.
this. So that was really good, and we do. Andy and I really had good, I want to say communication. It's actually not. It's actually conversation.
Right.
We were very
Okay,
good at
yep.
conversing. We could just talk and talk and talk and talk, not just about nothing, like about good
banter.
topics. Yeah,
Yeah.
good banter. Wasn't necessarily really openly good, like deep communication, but was good conversation. He was
Yeah.
very good at keeping up his end of the conversation and asking questions and stuff. So we could do that really easy, and all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, that's 3 hours we've been sitting here having a drink and a snack and whatever. So that was a really great night. I think I actually like slept over, which was nice as well. So we just sort of cuddled and all those sort of
That's
fun
another
things.
line that you often have a conversation about is, well, if we're just having sex, do we cuddle? Are we like affectionate, acting as if we're just like having a nice time, or is it wham bam?
Am I allowed to stay the night?
Yeah.
Am I getting up in the first
And we
thing in
do
the
stay the
morning?
night. Do we spoon? Like,
And this is, I guess that's one of the things I've already learned was that conversation didn't really happen. So it was more of a, hey, we've been drinking, do you want to stay? And then
Right.
because we were sort of making out, it just, it ended that way. But it was also really nice feels. And I was like, oh, this is nice, this is cute, this is fun. And so then like sort of the next time we got together, again, there was usually some sort of activity like a meal, like we'd go out for dinner or we'd have like lunch or something, or I think I cooked for him and he came to my house, whatever. And then we'd sort of get it on. And unfortunately, the first time that we went all the way to, is it third base, home base? I don't know, whatever, all the way.
Yeah.
My high school metaphors are terrible. He was unable to perform. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, cool. And he said, oh, I think I'm just really tired and all that sort of stuff. And I was like,
bodies are weird. Shit happens.
Bodies are weird and shit happens.
Yeah.
When it happened the second time, I was starting to take it personally. And I was like, is there something wrong? Like, is there something you want me to do or not do or whatever? Oh, just, And then after the second time, he kind of said like, I think, it's really hard for me to just sleep with someone I'm not in love with. And I was like, okay. And I kind of wanted to probe that a little bit further because he had been in long-term relationships. I was like, are you saying that you didn't sleep with your last partner for till you were in love with them?
Yeah.
Like, that's a bit weird. So I don't know if that was just something he was working out in his own head or if it was an excuse, or whatever. But it just sort of, kept putting a dampener on what we were doing. And it's
got to have ratcheted your anxiety up about the situation.
Because I was working pretty hard. I was like, okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty details. He was very good with at going down on me, and and so we would be physically intimate for like an hour, and it was amazing. And it just felt weird that we sort of couldn't. Not that everything is about, as Tom says, P and V.
Yeah.
It's not. That's not the be all and end all, obviously, but it was more the fact that he wasn't finishing either, and I was like, this is weird, and I don't feel like it's an even transaction in what we're doing, and
Girl,
so on and so forth.
just take it. If that's on tap, just do not feel bad. If he's still going down there and he's not bothered about not finishing, then just you take it.
Well, that's what I mean. I couldn't figure out if he was or wasn't because he kind of just clammed up each time. Like it was just sort of like he would snuggle and snore.
I mean, I'm not a guy. But I imagine it would be quite a sensitive topic. Like, and you'd feel quite self-conscious.
Sure.
And the
absolutely.
more that it happened, the more it maybe would happen because it would just be the anxiety in your brain.
And I had a chat with a girlfriend and she's like, oh, it happens all the time. Like it's, and it is, it's one of those things that I know we don't talk about, but we all know that it exists. And the shame, I'm using inverted quotes there, of it and not being able to, do like we should talk about it.
And this is the thing though. And I think a female equivalent that I've actually talked to a couple of girlfriends about recently is not being able to orgasm.
Right.
And not having enough confidence to actually say to somebody, it's not working for me. You just fake it and move on. Or, like it's just but the more you think about it, the more you go, I'm not going to come. This is not working for me. The more it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you try to stop thinking about it and relax, it might
Don't
happen,
think about the pink elephant. Don't think about the...
Don't think
exactly.
about the
Exactly. My hint to any concerned partners in the world who are dealing with this, if the man is in the room with you and it's not you, right? If
Yeah.
he's in the same room with you in the bedroom, whatever, you're taking each other's clothes, and it's not you, all right?
No.
He's dealing with 100 million things in his brain, and as a consequence of all those things, something isn't happening elsewhere. But yeah, if he's in the room with you, it's not you.
Yeah.
all right? Calm down. You can
I like that.
can calm down.
I
all right?
like that.
That's
If you're trying to be intimate and he's just putting up and that you're not even getting to the same bedroom, then there's
exactly.
there's issues.
Exactly.
But no. There'll be a mountain of stress and different things that'll be a bit ahead.
It's even down to I've heard you guys talk as well about the lack of anatomy education
Yes.
Sure.
that people have, and I think it is part of that as well. Is that we sort of have this, especially as teenage boys, is they can just look at a woman and boing, everything works. And so if it's not happening, it's therefore an attraction thing. But yeah, it's really good to hear you say that, Tom, because like everything else was working.
The thing that Mum says a lot, and she now listens to the podcast, she got really offended because I mentioned my dad in a previous episode. She's like, I've never heard you talk about your dad. I was like, well, I know me this episode? Okay, fine. But anyway, I've talked to her about this before, and it's a lot to do with mindfulness as well. Like if you have an inability to be present in the moment, it's going to affect your sexual pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So if
right.
there is anything else going on in your life, if you're not 100, if you're going, I'm really nervous that this might not happen. Like it can be bodily related. It can be brain related. It just.
And I would
meditation
100% agree
helps.
with that.
I'm sorry, like I'm really crap at meditation, but apparently,
Yeah.
meditation helps
Yes,
with both
I've heard
orgasming
someone, yes.
and erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. So anyway, we sort of got to this point where now we were like the point of the relationship was sex, and the sex wasn't necessarily working and going as well as I had hoped and planned.
Sure.
And then it just started but then the other stuff he was like doubling down on. So I was getting the boyfriend experience is what I'm calling it. And so I was getting the cuddles and the daytime texts and how are you and some of this sort of stuff and the discussions and the banter and that's what I mean. Like in the end of the day, it was still a very good and still intimate sort of relationship. But now he had made a few random comments about, oh, maybe I'm getting too old to have kids. And I was like, oh, that's a turning. If that's a thing,
Are you back on my books?
Because that was the stop sign was that thing, but then it would come back the next day, and then he's like, oh, I've given up on dating, I'm not doing the apps, and then a week later he's like, oh, I've got a date, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting a bit of whiplash. So of course
This is the problem with the boyfriend experience is that the lines are blurred. There are not clear boundaries
Yes.
set up. And so when somebody else goes, I've got a date, your feelings can get a little bit hurt.
And so that's the thing, is I started having some of the feelings, and so this was probably about 6 weeks. So it really only was like 6 or 7, 8 dates that we ended up sort of having, because it was like once a week. But I basically sort of talked to him one night and just sort of said, look, I'm starting to think this. I'm a bit confused about some of the stuff that you've said. I want to just get an idea of where you're at. How are we going? I said, you don't have to answer me now. I want this, but we should, can we have a chat in a couple of days? This is where I'm at. I could go either way, but I just want to know what you're thinking. And if this is a maybe, then, et cetera, et cetera. So he was like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's, I'll have a think about it and blah, blah, blah. So then I gave him like 2 or 3 days, and I texted him and said, hey, do you reckon we could have a chat tonight if you're free? And he was like, yeah, sure, that sounds really good. I think something about I'm doing dinner with my parents. So I said, yeah, look, just let me know when you're free. So then he didn't message or call me at all that night. So I was sort of like, has he forgotten? And so I messaged him quite late, probably like 9 o'clock, and just sort of went, hey, are you still available for a chat? He didn't get back to me till the next morning. And I was like, oh, sorry, we just got caught up doing stuff at my parents, and it was really late. I didn't want to call you late. I was like, okay, that's fine. So then we gave it another day or two, and then he's like, yeah, give me a call. And so I called him, and I was like, so what do you think? What do you think about all of this? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, so the conversation we had last week where I said, hey, do you want this to be a real thing or not? Or do we need to reevaluate what we're doing? He's, I haven't really given it much thought.
Not ideal.
And I was
not
like, okay, bye. And I hung up.
Yeah, nice. Yep.
Good move.
So which was good in a way. I was like, okay,
She doesn't have time.
So it was about a week later that I just sort of went, I didn't feel like I really had some closure because I was like, okay, well, bye. And I thought it was a little test. I don't like saying that I did that, but actually I remember it because it was the Echo Week. So we have the Brisbane exhibition show here, and we get the Wednesday public holiday in the city. And so it was Tuesday night before the public holiday. So we didn't normally do anything on a school night because we were both super busy. But I thought, well, it's public holiday tomorrow. So I texted him and I said, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I thought he's either going to go, oh, I thought you dumped me, or hey, yeah, hey, come on over. So I was like, at least then I might have an idea of what
There's
he was
a third
thinking.
option. But continue.
Yeah. And so he kind of was like, I actually kind of want to look at my phone as well to look at the text, but he was sort of half and half, which I was like,
Yep.
I still don't
He's
know
not
what
going to
actually
be
just
like,
happened.
yeah, or he's not going to be like, I thought you dumped me. He's going to be like half in, half out. I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah. Let me mull it over. I need
No,
time.
fuck this up. Anyway, it ended up, and again, it was one of those things where he didn't message me for a while. It was late, and I ended up seeing a message in the morning and all this sort of stuff. Then we had this very long message conversation the next day where I was like, look, I was just really upset that you hadn't even given my questions and my stuff the time of day. That really hurt, and I'm just want to know where we're at and what we're doing. And he basically then doubled down and decided to try and gaslight me all the way through the fact that I was very clear that we were only friends, and we were just like friends with benefits, and I've been making that clear, and I've been trying not to lead you on, and I was like, no, but you've been flirting and like holding my hand, and we cuddle after sex, and
I had
this
this exact conversation with a guy that I sat next to at the Bumble lunch, where we were talking about he was talking about how he'd be quite clear with people, but then they'd catch feelings. And I'm like, are you backing up your words with your actions?
Yes.
And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, it's a very different thing saying, but I was quite clear with you that I didn't want a relationship. You need to define what not a relationship looks like, because not a relationship can be holding hands and cuddling. If you know that's part of the not a relationship, then you're not going to see that as a signal that it is a relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
Actions are important.
The thing for me though also was that, but you didn't even use your words.
Yeah.
So I was like, you never actually said any of this stuff. We never had a conversation other than here's my rules right at the start,
Yeah.
We never used the word friends with benefits. We'd never said it's just sex. Like, and again, this is me going, there's my lesson. Here, I need to define some of this, or outline expectations a little better at the start. And that's the thing. I was sitting here going, I've learnt a crap ton, and he just would not even remotely claim any responsibility. He's like, nope, my body language was clear, and I did this, and blah blah blah. I was like, well, no, because I'm still sitting over here with all of this stuff. And then he's like, and I said, look, there was probably a few things that I looked at with rose-colored glasses, and when I don't want to see that this could go either way. And I admitted to that, and I was like, yeah, I probably could have done things better, but I've been asking you now for like a week and a half to have a conversation, and now you're kind of just throwing it in my face.
Yeah.
So of course this was the best closure, because I was like, I'm done with you.
Where's the button? Is it working? We've moved studios, so I'm next to the button now. It's a bit exciting.
Yes, we gave
Yes,
we
you've
gave
given
Liz
me all the power.
control.
My button finger is twitching.
Sorry, everybody. I'm
Look
sorry.
out. But so it sort of it ended up in this sort of back and forth text, rant sort of thing, and I just got more and more frustrated, and I was like, okay, you clearly just either have no idea. I actually honestly don't think he actually knew what he wanted anyway.
No, and I think it sounded like he thought that he could do a thing, and then it became clear to him after he said yes that he couldn't do it, but he didn't communicate that in any way, shape or form.
I just sort of very rapidly went, okay, great. And I did, saying to my friends that I've learned stuff, like, and if I was to do this again, and again, I did get some confidence back, and I said that to him. I said, thank you for helping me get my confidence back. That was great. I'm disappointed that we couldn't have ended this a bit more amicably, or we could have, whatever, but he just really doubled down on, no, I told you from the start, you're the one that's crazy. You've built it all up in your head, sort of thing. He didn't actually use the word crazy, but it was in that zone. Just one of the other things was, if you want to date someone, maybe don't tell them about all the other people that you're sleeping with. And I was like, that was literally my one rule.
Rules.
And I actually hadn't slept with anybody in that time. I'd gone on dates, and I was like, whatever, okay. So anyway. Andy, out.
Yeah, done.
Bugger. It all had the
No, I'm not like
potential.
bugger. I'm like, get him out the door.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
There was good.
Thank
there
you.
was some good
Next.
stuff going that could have been good. Oh well.
So that brings me to the next one. I'm going to call this guy Jack. Now, Jack is, again, met him on the apps. He was right up front about the fact that he lives overseas and he was here for like a month with work.
Right.
And so he's like, I've come out of a long-term relationship. I'm now in Australia for a couple of weeks. I'm literally just looking for some fun. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I was like, I think in even that's the first instance of having an end date on this relationship.
You have a built-in expiry.
Was automatically made it so much easier. I was like, yep, we've got 2 or 3 weeks to have some fun. Let's do that. The end. I said to him, I still need to meet you and just see that we click, obviously, because if this is just going to be, some casual sex while you're here, I need to still like you. So we did. We met and we had dinner. And we met and had drinks. So I like to keep them short in case they're horrible. And then I'm like, I've had one drink. I'm out by 15 minutes
You
later.
don't want to be at the 6-course meal.
No.
So I've had that experience. It's bad.
Oh, God,
it turned into dinner and 3 hours of chatting.
Great.
So
Good.
it was
Nice.
fantastic. And again, this was it was a school night, and I'd said, look, let's not do anything tonight. I just want to meet you. And I said, I need to get home because I'm tired. It's the middle of the week, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and he was really great. A bit younger than me. He's actually an Australian who's living overseas, and so that's why he'd started in the company here and moved over and came back. And we got on really well. We had a lot in common. We had a lot to talk about, and I felt reasonably attracted to him as well. So we got to the end of the date, and we'd actually already had some pretty open discussions about sex and preferences and things that we like and things that we don't like. And I was almost like, oh, maybe we need to just get this happening, fanning myself over here. But I sort of just went, no, let's just, again, just more for myself, I want to ease into it a little bit. But I thought, I'll say, do you want to walk me to my car? And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. So, and it was a, coolish evening. So we grabbed our jackets. We walked a couple of blocks to where my car was parked. Now, I'm not a big PDA person. I get really like, don't touch me in public. Just in private, that's private. And even when, like, I don't mind so much seeing other people do it, but I get really like, ugh. I think it's just because I've never really done it. I haven't had that sort of relationship out in public where I do it. So I just get a bit funny about it. But we'd walked to my car, and there was this girl leaning on the car in front of me where I was parked. So like right at the bonnet of my car, and clearly quite inebriated and on the phone very loudly. And I actually don't even know what she was saying because I could just hear noise coming from her. So as we rounded the corner and my car was sort of on the edge of the corner, we just sort of encounter her. So she's like right next to my car, like really close. And then as we get there, this trio of young Asian tourists on scooters pulled up on the corner, and like we're literally like 2 feet from the other end of my car. So we were suddenly like boxed in with these people, and I lost it. I was like, so I went in for the hug and was like, thanks so much. And but I was like, I pulled away, ran and jumped in my car.
Oh no.
And even as I pulled away, I could feel that he had sort of lingered, thinking there was going to be a something.
There's too many people, goodbye.
And I was like, okay, thanks, bye, I'll talk to you later, bye. So I literally, because we met in the valley, so I drove over the Story Bridge and I pulled over and I texted and went, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I said, that there was so many people, it really freaked me out. I had done the whole walk me to my car ploy to get a kiss, and I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, thank God, I thought I'd read all the signals wrong.
Oh, poor guy. Must have just been standing in the street being like, what the fuck just happened?
What just happened? So he was like, oh, thank God. Whew. I was like, no.
That is really good of you to pull over and text as soon as possible
because I'm probably a good half-hour drive away, so I didn't want to let that sit. Yes. I was like, I don't know why I freaked out, but I did. It's just people, and we talked about it later, and now it's a fun anecdote. But I just was like, and ran away.
Don't need an audience, please. I don't need an audience.
Especially when it's like a first kiss. I didn't know how I was going to go. It could have still been awful.
People who were hanging around your car could have gone, woo!
Yeah, totally understandable.
Getting some
Totally
hecklers.
understandable.
So yeah, he was really. I said, well, at least we know we can start there next time. So as soon as I see you, I'll kiss you. It's fine.
Yeah.
So then we met up a couple of days later, and it was sort of like an afternoon evening thing. He was like, yep, I'm being out for lunch. Let's hang out. So he got a couple of drinks. He got some 6-packs at his apartment that he was staying in. And I went over, and again, I was just really nervous. It's always nervous with the first time with somebody. And so we had a couple of drinks, and we just sat on his couch, just chatting. Like, again, really good conversation. He's traveled quite a lot, so he was telling me sort of really fun travel stories and all this sort of stuff. And I think we'd had 2 drinks, and at this point I was like necking the last of my second one, and he said, oh, do you want another? And I was sort of tried to shake my head whilst still just drinking that last mouthful of beer, because I was like, I need to eat soon, because I've actually had 2 beers now and I haven't had sort of a lot of food. And we had talked about going out for dinner, but this was at like 4:35 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was a bit early. And I said, plus, I think I owe you a kiss. And
smooth.
Yeah. And so I think he'd been wanting to start but didn't. But as soon as I said, I think I owe you, I was like, oh God, there we go. It was on.
Yeah, nice.
And I think because we had talked about sex a fair bit, like preferences and things that we'd liked and tried or didn't work and whatever, it was quite amazing because and I felt really comfortable with him, and it was just, there was no expectations of, if I do this wrong, he's not going to like me and we're never going to get married and it's all over. Like, it was just,
you're taking the pressure off.
Like you just said before, I was so in the moment of, I'm just going to enjoy this, and I absolutely did, which is great. We had, it just was a really, really great encounter. And then again, it was like, well, let's go for dinner. Okay, so we jumped on a bus and went into the city and had dinner and had a few more drinks and came back. I didn't stay. I went home, but it was great. And I think it's because we just had talked about it. And so then I think we met up twice more before he had to leave. Each time equally fantastic and amazing.
Excellent.
Really cool,
fantastic. Yeah. So I'm kind of calling Jack it was sort of like my sexual awakening or reawakening. I was like, okay, this is what it's sort of meant to be like.
Nice.
This is how it should feel. This is how I should feel afterwards and during and all of that sort of stuff. So it was and I said that to him. I said, I actually really appreciate this. I know this is just, I'm sort of just another girl in a port for you at the moment, but I said, this has actually been really, really good. He was so sweet about it, really lovely.
Oh, good.
And so then he'd tacked on a 2-week holiday somewhere else at the end of this before he was returning back to his home location. And at this point, we'd sort of followed each other on Instagram, so I was sort of watching his holiday, and I'd send him, and he'd basically, when the last time I saw him, he said, if you're ever in this town, and I said, well, next time you're back in Brisbane, if we're single, give us a call or whatever. He said, oh, I'd love that, that'd be great. So
Amazing.
Could be like a year later, and he'd just give me a call. So we'd sort of made friends on Instagram, and so I'd followed his holiday, and I'd seen that he'd posted this one day at the airport, and he was like, very sad to be heading home, but got to do your thing. And so I messaged him, and he'd given me his overseas WhatsApp number, and so we were chatting there, and I was like, oh, your holiday looked amazing. How was it? And so we sort of had built this conversation outside of him being here, and all this sort of stuff. And we sort of banter and chat and whatever. It was really good. Anyway, he was like, oh, I've got a 3-hour flight and I'm absolutely exhausted. I wish I had something to look forward to at the end. And I was like, oh, well, if you want to chat with me, we could do that. And we had sort of talked about maybe we could even experiment with like cyber sex and do like a Zoom chat and play around and whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, maybe. And he said, well, if there was I'm getting quite warm in here talking about all this sex. Is it just me?
Okay. She's just
She
started fanning herself with with their cheat notes.
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets really hot. Is that he said, well, if I got off the plane and there was some naughty messages from you, I wouldn't be mad about it. And I was like, oh, maybe I could maybe I could write you a story or something.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, that'd be
Erotic
awesome.
literature.
Yes.
Oh, Liz, turns out I'm quite the writer. Who knew?
Okay, then. All right.
Do you know you can make a lot of money ghostwriting Mills and Boom books? Just putting it out there.
You know what? Maybe I need to look into that.
Yeah, I know people who
With
do
my
it.
mortgage rising, I
Yeah.
need all the extra dollars I can get at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, he'd then given me like he said, he actually had messaged me, go, okay, I'm literally sitting on the plane. We're about to take off. It's like a 3-hour flight. He had a few stopovers and whatever. And I was like, yep, great. I'll have something ready for you by the time you land. So I sat down and I actually sat on my computer and like wrote a little story and then I chunked it and sent it in messages to him. There may have been some visual aids. There may have been a few other little things. So again, Mother is not listening to this episode.
Naughty girl.
It was so fun. I had so much fun. And I wrote a story that said, it started with, as the plane landed, you weren't sure if it was a good decision to return to this town to see her, but here you were. And so I just sort of
I
wrote
bet
this.
he didn't expect this level of literature.
No,
He
This-
did
this-
not. He was just like, holy mother of fuck. That was amazing. So, so I'd sort of written this imaginary story of him like just suddenly deciding to detour back to Brisbane to come and be with me one more time before he went home, you
Amazing.
know, sort of thing. And then I wrote this sort of big, very explicit story of what we did to each other, which was great. And I had fun. I had to, fan myself at the end and just be like, oh, Kim, that was a bit hot. Anyway, so then I then had to wait for him to land.
Yes. It's the waiting that kills you.
And I was like, he should be landing. And then I was like watching his WhatsApp and it's like online. I'm like, oh, he's landed. And he was like, okay, I've landed. I can see the messages. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to wait till
That's good manners.
Yeah, he was like, I want to read this properly. And then like an hour or so later, he had said, he's like, oh, I couldn't wait, but I should not have read that in the COVID testing line.
Yes.
He was like, I regret that.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
He goes, but holy shit, that was amazing.
Yes.
So he was just like, that was just the best, sort of finish. So he
Well
ended
done.
up.
Well done.
So then it turns out, and I said, oh, where are you now and what are you doing? Then we started chatting. He was in I'm not going to give you his full itinerary, but he basically had 2 or 3 stopovers. I thought he was actually heading directly home at that point, but he's like, oh, no, I'm here. And then I've got like a day here and then I'm going to do a flight to this place. And then I've got like an 8-hour layover because the flights have been fucked up and I'm just sitting around waiting. But then I land in Brisbane and then I go home and I went, excuse me, what?
You land in where now?
One more time with that itinerary, please. And I went, are you serious? He goes, yeah, I've got about 36 hours because he was like a day and a half.
36 hours
And I
in
was like,
Brisbane. There's a film.
Oh.
There's a film.
exactly. And so, yes, I was like, well, can we do that? And pointed like up to my messages and was like, can we do that thing that I just wrote you?
please.
He was like, absolutely, let's do it. And I was like,
Oh,
Yes.
marvelous.
But at
marvelous.
this point, that was like Sunday night. He landed Wednesday night.
Oh,
so
you
I
gotta
had
wait,
3 days. And I will point out, I'm a school teacher. I was on school holiday, so I literally had nothing else to do but wait. I really should have been doing schoolwork, don't tell my boss. But but because he was also, apart from these, he had short flights, but then he had long waits in airports. And he's like, I can't go anywhere because I don't have a visa to go out into
Yeah,
the city
can't
of this
leave,
thing.
yep.
I can't leave. So we messaged non-stop for 3 days, and it was mostly about sex. It was
Of course.
because it was this whole thing of like, I was like, I'm not very experienced, and because people, I have all these guys on the apps go, oh, what's your kink? And I was like, consent, respect,
Yes, just generally
just
doing
a
it,
nice
just
orgasm would be
enjoying it.
lovely,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so I'm like, I don't have a kink, and so he was like, well, let's try some shit. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So we started having conversation about things that we'd like. He's like, I like doing this, or I have never done this and I want to try this. And I was like, I want to try this because I've never done it either. And they were varying. Nothing he said horrified me, which was nice. And he never said, really, is that all? Like to me, which was really great.
Good.
Yeah.
He's
good.
actually a really cool dude. And I still talk to him. So I actually asked his permission for this story.
Oh, bless.
And he's like, send me the app when you're done. I went, okay, right. So Jack, you're awesome. But yeah, we ended and then I was like, okay, I think I need to write this list down because here's, and so the teacher and me wrote it down. And then I was like, now we need to like prioritize it because, honey, I don't know that we have that much time to get through all of these things. And so we put it in priority order. And
I have a rubric for assessment.
Yeah, that's right.
we just were ticking boxes. That's what we were doing, tick and flick. And so I think we did 8 out of 10 that we had on our list.
Pretty good.
Not
we had
bad.
a really amazing 3-hour session. It was pretty fucking awesome.
Holy shit.
I actually got Gatorade bottles because I was like, we're gonna need some hydrolytes by the end of this. It was full on. And yeah, it was like there was things that we were talking about. Oh, that's right. Because I'm a music teacher. He was like, so what sort of music do you like to have sex to? And I was like, do you know, I've never had music apart from unless I was at a party or something and I was hooking up and there was music playing. I've never been consciously like, oh, that song was on the first time
That's all I ever did when I first started having sex.
Honey, I didn't
There's
do
an
this.
entire Coldplay album that I cannot listen to.
Anyway,
Well, that's just the band, love. I mean, that's not.
so yeah, I was like, I said, well, let's put that on the list as I've got, and I said, I'm going to curate a playlist. And so I said, but I'm going to make it horribly cliche and disgusting and it's going to be terrible. I said, but I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to keep a straight face.
And all the time signatures are going to be fucky. It'll be seven, 8.
Literally fucky.
Yeah, seven, trying to smush to 7, 8 time or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
and
6,
it's
7,
like
1, 2, 3, 4,
and 2.
5,
Yeah,
6,
it was
7.
just all the accents will be wrong. So, but no, it was like I was like, let's put all the cliche songs on. Let's do all this stuff. And I said, I don't know if I'll be able to keep a straight face. And he was like, well, what's the point? Like, if you're not there to have fun,
Yes.
and I think that's the thing is that all the times that I'd sort of been with someone previously, it had felt really serious and intense.
No.
And I'd never even though it was still sometimes they're like, oh, my leg's in the wrong spot. Oh my God, I got like a cramp in the middle of it. I was like, cramp. And, I had never laughed in a good way during sex. I mean, obviously
This
there's
is
bad
the
ways to
thing.
laugh during sex.
I've said this before on this podcast, I'm even sure, that it's important to laugh and get silly with sex because honestly, sometimes when someone's like, let's try a role play, there's no way I could be like, ooh, I'm actually a French maid to clean your room without pissing myself laughing. And that's after, we end up laughing and then just collapsing in a really, endorphin high
absolutely.
sex pile.
It was so fun. We had so much fun. And so yeah, every time a new song came on this terrible playlist, we had a giggle and whatever. I will share this one though, and Zane has hooked me up with so that I can play this for you because it's just you have to hear it because it's just that moment. So we'd been going for a little while. We were getting to the point of, all right, let's get down to business, as Mulan might say.
Please tell me.
No.
I was going to say, tell me you didn't play Mulan.
Let's get
To
down
defeat the mighty
business.
Hun.
No. And so okay, I'll paint you a picture, and I apologize that you're all looking at me in the room right now, but I'm lying on my back.
Okay.
He's sort of kneeling between my knees.
Amazing.
He has just put his condom on,
Uh-huh.
and the music is sort of fading out the end of the song, and he's like, he kind of was trying to be like funny, sexy, and he was like, all right, you ready? And I was like, I'm ready. And then this happens.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. No notes. George Michael, everybody. Yes.
And literally what just happened with Liz is what happened. The two of us just lost our shit completely.
It's like DJing a high school disco. Gee whiz.
I was like, it just was the perfect.
Oh my God.
It was just perfect, and we, and it took us a good few minutes to sort of collect ourselves, and then we went, let's go with it, and so
crying.
we fucked hard to Careless Whisper.
Oh, that's
That's one of my favourite stories because it still makes me giggle.
Very good.
So
Very
it was,
good.
and again, it was a really nice coda on our time together, and it just
such a music teacher.
I brought up time signatures. Don't look at me. But yeah, and so yeah, he's gone home now, and we've still randomly message and say good day, and we, like I said, follow each other on Instagram, and I did have a moment of, maybe I should just pack up and move overseas. Maybe I should do that because I'm never going to find anyone as great as this guy. And then I went, oh, don't be stupid, Kim.
It would
it's fine.
completely change it if there was a future. Like
Yeah,
it would
absolutely.
change The vibe, it will change
I think
everything.
from the outset, there was a time frame. There was a time limit, right? From the beginning, this time frame didn't pop up a month in.
Yeah, it was my Grease Lightning summer fling. You know, like it was that sort of thing, and I've told him this. I appreciated it so much, and it was so valuable for me and giving me confidence and moving forward in other stuff. And I won't go into the third story. I think that's another one.
I can see that you've got a third name on there, and I was just thinking
slightly tangential anyway. But that for me, that was those two stories to be able to go, I learned some things, and then I sort of put that into practice in the second one of those.
Got on the Fun Wagon.
Oh, got on that Fun Wagon with George Michael DJing in the background.
Very good. That second story in particular, I think it sounds happy and healthy and fun and sort of adult and all really, really nice, good things. So well done. And thank you for bringing more tales of traipsing through the dating life to us.
Any lessons for you, Tom?
I've got a shopping list.
I think we covered a few lessons that Kim learnt through that. Are there any that you wanted to add?
I was just going to say the really big one for me was obviously just knowing what I wanted and articulating that as well. And but also like not that you don't have to go, these are the rules on day one and they will the only rules that will exist, is that you revisit the rules as well and just sort of go, hey, boundaries change, check in, how are we feeling, where do we want to go with this, yay or nay, you know. So I think, fucking communicate seems to be a really good lesson here, and I definitely was able to put that into practice the second time.
Brilliant. Tom, laundry list.
I believe Kim said she messaged one of the chaps and said, we need to have a chat. Now, in any relationship, in any dynamic, whatever it is, whenever you say to someone, hey, we need to have a talk.
I will avoid that chat.
No. Yeah. You're allowed to say that, but give a brief, drop in a brief bit about what it's about when you say that. Because if you just say, hey, you and I, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah, my heart's going to fall out of my butt.
But if you say, even if it is going to be bad news, hey, we need to have a conversation about our relationship, at least you're priming the other person a bit more.
To be fair, that one was actually, we'd already had the conversation on the date previously. So it was like,
I need to follow up on your answers because you haven't talked to me yet.
And I'm telling you now, not just calling you out of the blue when you're in the middle of your grocery shopping to go, let's have a D&M. So it was more of a, can we have that chat that you already know about tonight. But yes, I absolutely take your point.
And I think talking about sex outside of the bedroom.
So important.
So good.
In any relationship, it can be a one-night stand or a marriage of 20 years. The sex isn't what you're like cut off from the relationship in one corner of the relationship and it's quarantined and you go in there and only talk about sex and only talk about it at the breakfast table, so that when you do go into that bed,
not if you're married 20 years and have kids. Maybe wait 2 weeks. I'm not at the breakfast table.
Right. So that when you take it, so that you have that information outside of the bedroom, and it's fine. And then when you go into that area, then you can apply your work.
Because when you're in the bedroom, and it doesn't have to be a bedroom, but when you're naked, that's vulnerable, and it's really hard to have conversations about what you like and what you don't like when you're coming from a place of intense vulnerability.
Yes, I think
talking about it is vulnerable enough. You know,
I would agree. So
adding nakedness to talking about it, that's a lot sometimes. So if you can talk about it outside the bedroom in a respectful way, and in a consensual way. Don't just message someone and be like, what's your kink, straight up? Because I'm telling you right now, most people who respond to that just want subscribers on their OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's privileged information.
Like, you got to know me a little bit before you can ask me that question.
But find out.
Yeah.
Can do the work and find out what turns me on.
Yeah, exactly. That's for me to know and you to find out.
Exactly,
yes,
exactly.
right.
Yes. But I think I felt so much more comfortable, even though I still felt vulnerable, being able to say, I don't know how I feel about that. I've never done that before. I'm not sure, but I'd be willing to maybe give it a try. Was having that conversation face to face naked is a lot harder, because you're like, I'm in it now and he's just going to do the thing and now he's touching me and it actually, I think it really helps with that consent side of thing as well. There was one thing on our list that we sort of didn't do, because I sort of had a little bit of a go at it by myself, and I was like, oh no, this is not something that I'm really, and he was fine. Like, he was like, yep, cool, let's take it off the list. Yeah. So, I said, look, I'm willing to experiment and maybe give it a go, but not at this point. I don't want to try it and then it actually ruins the experience. I'd rather go, yes, I'm wholeheartedly involved in this experiment and that sort of stuff as well. So it was really good to be able to feel comfortable to say that, and amazing.
Nice.
Elizabeth, anything you've learned from the tales today?
When you are doing a friends with benefits relationship, it's really important that boundaries are set down and that those boundaries are constantly reevaluated and discussed. And if you say to somebody, I do not want X, Y, and Z, and then you behave like you are acting like you want X, Y, and Z, that's a very different thing. You need to make sure that your actions match your words, because if you're telling someone something and then hinting the other, they might be like, oh, well, maybe they're struggling with their feelings as well. Maybe it's maybe they're not sure what they want. And you can't then turn around and go, I was very clear. And I'm like, well, sometimes for some people, friends with benefits can be spooning and holding hands and cuddling and then dating other people. But sometimes that is very much a boyfriend or girlfriend experience. And so when you do those acts that are considered what they consider part of a relationship, it really muddies the waters. So you need to define, when you're setting out to have a friends with benefits relationship, what that looks like for you. Because I know that I've had friends with benefits relationships before where we've just been like, have sex, high five, yeah, this is great. But then I've gone out with them and then they've put their hand on my leg in public, and that's
no good.
That would be fine had we had that kind of relationship before, but that just made me go, where with my friends in public? What does that mean?
Absolutely. What does that mean? And I didn't mention this at the time, but that's what Jack and I actually did. I said to him, look, I'm happy for this to be just a physical thing for a couple of weeks, but I actually would also like to, inverted commas, date you. I said, let's hold hands, let's have dinner, and then go and do the sex.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, sure. So, at least then the fact that we weren't just, I rock up, we fuck, I leave, or vice versa.
Yeah, because friends with benefits doesn't have to be clinical.
No.
But you need to make sure that the other person is on the same page as you as to what that looks like for you and
make sure your actions are matching what you're saying, your words.
Yes.
Make sure, because they can be two separate worlds.
That's my main lesson.
Yeah.
No, fantastic, Liz, you crushed it. I think everybody at home should thank Kim for being here today and for being so much more professional than Elizabeth and I, for being just for being better in every single way than us today.
Is that the first time you've used that?
I didn't even know that. I'd been saying for ages we should get an applause button.
Do you know how many times I clap in my car? I basically put the podcast on the way to school and back in the mornings, or I put it in my earphones around the house, and I'm like, yes, with someone does something.
Then I'm sorry if that hurt your ears, but I was really excited.
I am so excited to be the applause.
Very
first.
good, very good.
But yeah, like Kim, she listened to our past episode. She heard our call outs for more sex stories, and she messaged me and was like, I have some sex stories. And I was like, I would like those sex stories, please.
So please, we implore you. It doesn't have to be a story about sex. It can be a story about anything across love, romance, dating, breakups, anything at all. We'll take it. Send them through to ghostsofboyfriendspast@gmail.com. Not even stories. Questions for our quickie or better advice than what Elizabeth and I have ever doshed
Please,
up. Please let us know.
And look, if we don't respond to you, we had a really good example of this the other day, is that someone had said something through to our email and I hadn't responded. They hit us up on social media and said, I just remember that you said if we haven't responded to you, within a week or something, that to hit you up on social media, and their message had gone to spam. So I rescued it from the spam folder and have that for a future episode. So yeah, if we don't respond to you, if you don't hear from us in some way, shape or form, hit us up on social media, because we want to find your story. We want to find your question. We want to find whatever you want to send through to us.
But we thank you for listeing once again, dear readers. It means a whole lot to me and a whole lot to Elizabeth. While you're bouncing around the internet, go to that'snotcanon.com.au. I assume
Not
is
.au.
just .com. My apologies.
Or do they both go there? They both go there.
You
don't need the
like,
AU,
how long have you
but
been
it
doing
still
this,
goes
Tom?
there.
Come on.
You can't miss it, but there'll be a podcast for you on that platform. We have everything except for cryptocurrency. I'm sorry.
No crypto bros.
You're going to have to go elsewhere for your crypto chat.
Yeah.
And I'm not apologizing for that.
No, not
Sorry.
even. I feel like we're all having the last laugh on the crypto Bitcoin front at the moment.
Aren't
True
we
that.
ever? But keep dating.
Please rate, review, subscribe. I want to, from now until Christmas, I want to do a bit of a review drive because it's been a little while since we've had a couple of new reviews, and it'd be a real great Christmas present. So far we haven't asked for any money. We haven't asked for, anything from you guys other than your willing ears. If you love the podcast, can you find somewhere, anywhere, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Podchaser, anywhere that you can rate, review us, please do. It would be the greatest Christmas gift of all for us.
Right.
We would appreciate it. But until then, if you've got some good sex stories, I'm still into it. We will install extra fans in the studio in case we get a little bit hot.
Steamy.
In case it gets a bit steamy. But thank you so much, Kim, for coming in.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it. And guys, just take a leaf out of Kim's book and have the talk about it. Let's talk about sex.
Sex, baby.
Let's talk about sex.
La la la